Slow and steady is truly it. There was nothing radical to the way that I lived. Consistency over a long time rather than intensity over a short time. Okay, I'll give him a few months and I'll do 16 hours, but I'm never doing more than 16 hours. And I just don't know if I can do fasting. In my head, I was like, there's no way. And now I'm continuing to voluntarily do it just to maintain because it works and it's not bad.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Super glad to have you here today. If you are joining us live, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to bring you today's episode. We are going to talk to somebody who has had some incredible success with intermittent fasting in their own weight loss journey, as well as I'm going to share a bit of advice that I share with just about everybody that I talk to when it comes to struggling with that all or nothing mentality and what it takes to actually move forward with your weight loss journey. Again, excited to have you here. If you are watching this live, be sure to go ahead and drop your questions into the chat. I look forward to answering those as well a little bit later on. And if you are listening to this on replay on the podcast or watching us on our YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe and follow along for all updates to the show. Now, before we get into today's episode, I do want to take just a quick minute. Today's episode is not sponsored, but I do want to take this opportunity and say, if you follow my content, if you are interested in all about some tips, strategies, and motivations for your own weight loss journey, I do have an email newsletter. You can sign up for my email newsletter at emailswithryan.com. Again, emailswithryan.com. You can go ahead and sign up for that newsletter. It's like having a little bit of motivation, tips, and inspiration delivered straight to your inbox. So today, before we get into your questions, I'm going to have a special guest join us a little later on. She's lost over 70 pounds following intermittent fasting, and more important than that, she has kept it off for coming up on 2 years, or maintained her weight loss for a year. She started her weight loss journey 2 years ago. I'm super excited to talk to her. But before we get into that, I do want to share this one bit of advice that I share with just about anybody that I ever talk to about starting a weight loss journey. This is especially for those coaching clients that I work with. I typically talk to them just a little more on a one-on-one basis, but here is the advice. And if you are listening to this on the day it comes out, I really appreciate that. And if you're watching this live now, it is a Wednesday, and I think this is a very appropriate time to share that. And here's the advice. Don't wait until Monday to start. So to go from who you are now to who you're going to be, it's going to take, a lot of little habits just done consistently. And if you follow what I say and you are interested in not only losing the weight, but keeping it off, you have to have consistency and sustainable habits built into your routine. And you're going to build a lot of habits, but there is one habit that you are going to need to break. And this is it. It's waiting until Monday to start. What happens when we tell ourselves that we are going to start on Monday? People usually fall into one of two categories. If this is you, be sure to leave a comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube, or shoot me an email and let me know. But it's one of two things that people fall into. One, we convince ourselves that we are never going to eat unhealthy again. We say, these are all the things, these are all the foods that I need to cut out. These are the foods that are causing me to be overweight. It can be Oreos, it can be Little Debbie's, chips, sodas, whatever the case is. You fill in your own blank. For me, it was key lime pie. All right. You tell yourselves, I'm never going to eat this again just because I can't have it and maintain my weight. Now, first of all, I'm going to tell you that that's not the case, right? If you have that kind of mindset, thinking about restriction and all the things you can't have, you're going to, set yourself up for some hurdles. But more importantly, if you say you're going to start cleaning up your diet on Monday, subconsciously what happens is you think, I'm never going to have Oreos again. So what do you do between Wednesday and Monday? Or if you're listening to this on a Friday, what do you do between Friday and Monday? You tend to overeat that because you've convinced yourself that starting Monday, I'm going to be a brand new person and I'm never going to have it again. So you overeat in the days leading up to Monday. So it is important whenever you want to start your weight loss journey, you just need to start today. Now, you don't need to do everything. I'm not an advocate of doing everything. You pick one thing and stick to it, but you need to start that one thing today. For me, that first thing was fasting. That's what a lot of people that I'm working with use. And our guest today, she's going to tell you how much fasting has affected her. But whatever it is, you just need to pick one thing and start today, because you don't want to overeat because you think of all this restriction that's coming up. So that's one camp of people. The other camp of people, when they say that they're going to start on Monday, what typically happens is they have this idea of what Monday is going to look like. I'm going to get a great night of sleep. I am going to wake up early in the morning. I'm going to do my morning meditation. I'm going to drink water. I'm going to take my vitamins. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat very clean. I'm going to do all those things. I'm going to get my 10,000 steps. But then life happens. Sunday night, you're up late with the kids. You don't get a good night of rest like you had planned on. So then Monday morning rolls around and you're like, you know what? Today didn't go as planned. And because we have this perfect picture of what Monday should look like when it doesn't go as planned, we end up saying, you know what? This isn't what I needed. I'm going to start again next Monday. And you end up perpetually pushing off starting. So if you are listening to this right now and you have not started your weight loss journey, or if you're listening to this right now and you have started your weight loss journey, but you tripped up because it's Wednesday and you didn't eat as good as you were planning on today, don't wait until Monday to restart. It doesn't matter what you do. You've got to do something, but you've got to do it today. All right, so again, that's enough about Mondays. Mondays have derailed so many fitness plans I can't even imagine. So I just want to hear your commitment that you are going to start today. Go ahead and drop a comment and let me know that you are committed to starting today. So we're going to go ahead now. We're going to take a few questions from those of you that are joining us live in the chat. And again, if you want to get your questions answered, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's Ryan Johnson. Subscribe there, get notified whenever we go live so that you can get your questions answered. So our first question coming in today is from Tanner, and he says, if you work out during your fasting period, is it ineffective since you can't get immediate protein in the system? Should you plan a higher protein day if you plan to work out while fasting? Tanner, that is an incredible question and one that I see a lot and one that I really like to talk about. So I really appreciate you asking that. But really, I'm going to break this down into two questions. I'm going to answer each of them individually. So the first one, Tanner, is if you work out during your fasting period, is it ineffective since you can't get immediate protein in the system? Now, this is where it goes back to everybody is a little bit different in not only what our lives look like and our schedules, but also what our ultimate goals are. So now, is working out and doing resistance training during your fasting window and not being able to consume protein? So like for me personally, I typically am working out most days between either 6 or 8 in the morning. And typically I'm breaking my fast at around 2 p.m. if I'm not doing one meal. So 18 hours is my base. So I will go, sometimes 7-8 hours before getting in post-workout nutrition. Now, is that optimal? Well, no, it is probably not optimal. But sometimes I think we have a tendency to overestimate what kind of gains we are going to get by doing things optimally. When we talk about optimal, we are talking about that last 5%. And that's where, doing resistance training while fasted, could you maybe get better results if you took in some post-work protein? Well, yeah, potentially. But what are you giving up? For most people, it's once they've broken their fast, if you were fasting for weight loss and you tell yourself, I've opened my eating window, I'm just going to start eating, that's going to mess you up more and getting in excess calories than delaying your protein intake. There's also, there have been studies that show, and again, I'm not Lane Norton. I love Lane Norton. If you want to know more about it, be sure to follow him. That protein timing and nutrition timing is not as important as we sometimes make it out to be, as long as you are getting sufficient protein in, which typically is that 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. But that goes into kind of your next question, which is, should you plan a higher protein day if you plan to work out while fasting? So that's where you've got to find what works for you in your schedule. Same thing about working out fasted. You should work out a time where you can work out consistently. If that's during your fasting window, you can do that. If you have the flexibility to maybe work out in your eating window, maybe that's something you look at. I know everybody doesn't have that flexibility, but I do try to make sure that I hit my own protein targets, which for me is about that 180 to 200 grams of protein. Now, on days where I do one meal, it is absolutely tougher to get in that 0.8 to 1 gram of protein in about an hour and a half. But the thing that I do to offset that is I try to not do one meal a day on those days where I am doing strenuous resistance training. So typically, if you watch a video and I'm doing OMAD for that day, that is a day that I didn't do a lot of resistance training. If I do resistance training in the morning, I do try to do about an 18-hour fast and try to get in sufficient protein, which is one of the reasons you see me drinking plenty of protein shakes, eating the biltong, because I'm still only going to have one, maybe 2 meals, but I'm trying to get that 180 grams of protein in. All right, so one more quick question here, and that is, I have been fasting. This is coming in from Ethan. I've been fasting and dieting successfully for a while, but I am struggling to get exercise in. How can I incorporate exercise into my life when I have never been an active person before? So Ethan, I love this question, man. And really, you kind of coded my answer to your question in the question itself. And it's the last part here. How can I incorporate exercise into my life when I have never been an active person before? The thing to think about and the thing to really understand if you're on a weight loss journey is that we are all absolutely on our own paths, and we have to find what works for us. And we need to compare what we are doing now to what we did before, not what we're doing now versus what the internet says you need to be doing or what is the optimal. It really is you versus you. I know that's cliche. If you're tuning in and listening to this, I'm going to repeat a lot of the same things over and over again, but that's because sometimes foundational truths need to be repeated. So here is my recommendation for you, Ethan. If you are not a very active person, the thing that I would recommend is you find, if we want to do, let's call it steps, we find a way to measure it. And then I just want you to compare what your average has been to what you're doing now. So I do this with coaching clients all the time. Whenever we start to look at steps, one of the things that we do is we don't automatically put everybody on 10,000 steps a day because everybody's living a different life. I look back and see what your average is, and then I just try to increase that 10 to 20%. So if you're averaging right now, Ethan, if you're averaging 2,000 steps a day, my recommendation would not be to try to shoot for 10,000. If you're doing nothing now, doing a little bit is moving you in the right direction. You set that new baseline and then increase it slowly over time. So for you, Ethan, let's just say you're averaging 2,000 steps a day. I want you to start by getting up in the morning, and before you get your day started, I just want you to get in 300 to 500 steps before you start your day. And what that's going to do is if you made no other changes, if you kept living everything else the same, you're going to get in the same 2,000 steps that you have been getting in, but now you're going to increase that by 300 to 500 steps without any extra effort except for that first thing right in the morning. Then 3 weeks from now 2,500 is going to be your base. So then you increase it again and slowly increase it over time. Be cautious of burnout. Don't try to do too much too quick. That is when you end up falling off. Remember, consistency over a long period of time is going to do much better than intensity over a short period of time. Consistency over a long time versus intensity over a short time is what I want out of you, Ethan. Speaking of consistency over a long time, I am super excited to have today's guest on. Again, this is, I think, now the third episode that we are filming live. I'm loving the new format. I hope you are as well. Be sure to let us know in the comments and in the chat if you enjoy this format as well as anything you want to see. But I'm super excited to have our first guest on in this live format. And it is somebody who has an incredible story to tell. a little biased because I know her personally, but I'm excited to talk to her today. When I started coaching people, time is flying. It's almost 20 months ago now, is when I started coaching people. And I started originally just coaching guys because that's what I was familiar with. That's what I could speak to. I could speak to who I was, because I'm not the coach to get you absolutely shredded, living in the gym, obsessing over nutrition. But when it comes to building healthy, sustainable habits, that's what I've lived for the last 4 years. That's what I've been helping people now with for 20 months. But I originally started with guys. I had plenty of women reach out and asked if I did any coaching with women. And for the first few months of coaching, my answer was no, just because I'm comfortable doing what I'm comfortable with. But I reached out to somebody who I know who was looking to make some changes in her life. And I asked if she wouldn't mind if I coached her, just so that I could make sure that what I was doing with guys was having a similar effect. So it's a study of one, but I have now been coaching women since, and it's been going great. So I'm super excited to welcome today's guest, my sister, Jennifer Malden, down 70 pounds over the last 18 months, coming up on 2 years really quick, but super excited to have you here. And you can see the photo there, an absolutely incredible journey. And when I say, Jen, that I'm super proud of you, one of the things that I tell everybody is like, when it comes to really incorporating that mindset of slow and steady and lifestyle changes, like, you were the example that I look to. So I'm super excited to talk to you today. I mean, tell me, I'll let you again. Jennifer was nice enough. Again, this is our first episode with a call-in. I called her, maybe about 40 minutes ago. I said, hey, would you mind joining me? I was like, I couldn't think of someone better to join, but I'm glad it worked out. Tell me a little bit in your own words, what the last 18 months has been like for you.
Slow and steady is truly it. Like, there was nothing radical to the way that I lived. And it was that idea, like, that you just talked about, that it's consistency over a long time rather than intensity over a short time. Because much like you, we grew up in the same lifestyle. And so I've yo-yo dieted much of my adult life. But I would go hard and I would count every calorie that I put in my mouth, and I would work out really intense 4 times a week. And I would see results, but I couldn't sustain that. I couldn't sustain only eating lettuce wraps and grilled chicken. Like, that wasn't real life to me. And so I would see the weight loss, and then the intensity had to stop because I couldn't sustain it, and I'd see the weight gain. And then just being of childbearing age, and having multiple children, I would lose the weight, I would get pregnant, I would gain weight, then I would be taking care of a newborn, and I can't sustain an intense lifestyle with a newborn. So just that part of being a woman thrown in also with the yo-yoing. But now for almost 2 years, I have a 3-year-old. So I started this as a postpartum mom and was able to sustain it in the midst of taking care of littles.
No, and again, I think you've done absolutely incredible. And I think similar to you, I mean, we talk all the time and kind of see what each other are up to. And I think we have seen each other kind of do that yo-yo before. I think you remember my P90X days.
Yeah.
I did P90X, lost 34 pounds. I was ripped and shredded. Hours. Oh, 100%, right? I pre-measured everything, and I did it for 90 days, and I looked good for a few weeks. And then we went out. Did you go out for that meal with us at Long Doggers after the Space Coast Half Marathon? Or was that
so.
just
yeah.
So that was the meal that broke me. So I went out and ate wings after, 90 to 100 days of eating clean, convinced myself that I had messed up and went on a 6-month binge and gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So, but one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, tell me about your thoughts about intermittent fasting.
Yeah, so that's easy because I know. Whenever you called me to ask if I could be a trial person, I might have told you, or I at least thought it and told Pete, okay, I'll give him a few months and I'll do 16 hours, but I'm never doing more than 16 hours. And I just don't know if I can do fasting. And then I started doing it, and it was not as hard as I made it in my head before I started, if that makes sense. And now I'm voluntarily doing 18 on the regular, and I've done a 24 once. just because it worked out and that's where life was.
No, that absolutely makes sense. And that makes me think of something that I haven't necessarily thought of before, but it kind of puts words to why I have people do things a certain way. And whenever we start working with someone, the only thing I have you do for like the first 2 weeks is just fast. And part of the reason is I think there is a lot of apprehension about, can I do this? But you know what makes that apprehension become reality is if you try to do other things too. If you try to fast and change your diet and get the steps in and work out, that is a lot. But
Yeah.
if all you did was fast, if I said change nothing about your life and just fast for 16 hours, you do it a few times, you realize, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I love the way that you put
Yeah.
that.
1,000%. In my head, I was like, there's no way. And now I'm continuing to voluntarily do it just to maintain because it works and it's not bad.
No, and I think one of the things that is interesting about you, and I talk with clients and people about this all the time too. One of the questions that I get is, what does my fasting schedule look like? So my fasting schedule, typically, I'll bounce between 18 and OMAD. I'll do maybe 3 days of OMAD, the rest 18 hours. I typically stop eating at 8 p.m. every night and start eating the next day. That will change for me. Whereas I feel like you vary your schedule a little more. Which is one of the reasons that I love fasting is the flexibility. But talk to me a little bit about like what's a typical week look like for you and how are you deciding what your fasting times are?
Yeah. So, and whenever I've talked to people, because they have the mindset of doing the same thing all the time, and can I fast if I can't do the same thing all the time? And so I come into fasting just as a busy person. I'm a nurse and I work both day shift and night shift. So my week is not the same from day to day, week to week. Like I'm all over the map personally with like working and kids, and my husband's a pastor. And so church events and all those things. So we have kind of come into a rhythm that works. We generally, if we are at home and we're eating dinner as a family, we try to be done eating by about 6:30 p.m. And so then the next day I'm open and ready for a coffee at 10:30. Wednesday nights we have church and it's just a super busy night with a lot going on. So that works for us to fast through dinner. Of course, we feed our kids. We generally provide pizza and stuff at the church for children. So they get to eat there. Heath and I will fast. And so we're done after lunch on Wednesday. We'll start our timers and then generally eat breakfast on Thursday morning. And breakfast isn't always a meal we eat. If I'm working a night shift, I thought that was going to be terrible to fast through that. But if I'm working night shift, then I generally will either eat before I go in or sometimes I stop at lunch and then I just drink water while I work throughout the shift. I still go into the break room during dinner time to socialize and enjoy that aspect of just like being with people while I'm at work. But I'll just drink my water and all my coworkers know that I'm fasting and it's no big deal. It just kind of is. So I don't have a set schedule. It just depends on each day what I'm doing.
Yeah, and so that flexibility I think plays into the sustainability part of it, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, all our lives are always changing. To think we're going to stick with one thing, again, that's why I love fasting. I'm not a zealot. It's not the only way. It's the way that I have found that works for me. Talk to me a little bit before we go about your food choices, because I think this is something that you do well as well, maybe even a little better than me, is you are mindful of eating healthy, nutritious, but you absolutely have balance. When we were up there a few weeks ago celebrating your birthday, like that Biscoff cake is probably the best cake I've ever eaten in my life.
Yes.
And you still have things like that. So talk to me a little bit about your food choices and how, fitting in those fun foods, but still
Yeah.
having that balance. What does that look like for you?
So I think part of that comes with like sustainability options also. So I started with just fasting, and exercise has been something that I've done since 2020. In that immediate postpartum period, obviously that's something that you can't keep up because you feel like you're feeding or changing a baby about every 30 minutes. So when do you exercise? So those things were all things that I already had. So as I added them slowly and I started to see progress, then that food part came into play where like, okay, I'm fasting, I'm exercising, I'm seeing a drop in the scale, I'm seeing the way that my clothes are fitting differently. And so then it just motivated kind of being cautious of what I put in my mouth. I enjoy soda. I still have Coke every now and then because I just think Coke tastes good. But I don't think Coke tastes good enough to drink empty calories all day, every day anymore. So now it's like a treat. We go out to the Mexican restaurant. Maybe I want to grab a Coke this time, but it's not something that I buy and keep stocking in my fridge all the time where I'm having a Coke just on a random Tuesday. Same with like dessert. I would eat ice cream every night after I put the kids to bed. And then I started fasting. And so after dinner, I generally start my timer. So it just kind of made me question like, okay, is this ice cream worth delaying the start of my timer or not? And sometimes it is. Sometimes I want that ice cream and I have it, but sometimes it's not. So I don't feel the need that I have to indulge all the time. I can enjoy the treats like cookie butter cake that is delicious without having to like eat it all the time. And then just the fasting mentality, like if I'm going to delay eating and now my window starts, like I want to enjoy what I'm putting in my mouth.
No, I love that. And again, I think you've done, if you ever want to start showing people what you eat, let me know. I'll tell you how to make some videos. But no, I think, again, Jen, you've got an incredible story. I know we kind of scheduled this last minute, but I would love to talk. I mean, you and I talk more. Maybe we can share a little more with everybody else. But thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for being such a great sister and honestly, somebody that I look up to. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Again, super excited, very proud of my little sister. I think one of the things to know is she's up in South Carolina, so we didn't get to, like, we're not living next to each other all the time, like checking on each other. It was solely her kind of listening to and adopting this idea of like slow and steady, institute one habit at a time, and she has absolutely crushed it. With that being said, again, I don't always have openings for coaching just because my team and I, and my team is one other person and me, Mike, my assistant coach, we only do one-on-one coaching because I really do believe in this idea. There are plenty of weight loss plans out there. You can go straight to Google and find a weight loss plan. And if you follow it, it will absolutely work. But one of the things that I have found helpful and that I focus on is like finding what's going to work for you. And I think that's where people struggle, is finding some of that individual, like, how's this going to work within my life? So if you are interested in coaching, please reach out to me. Just send an email to ifwithryan@gmail.com. Again, that email address is ifwithryan@gmail.com, and just put coaching in the subject line. We can have a conversation, see if some one-on-one coaching, accountability, and support may be something that is good for you. Again, if that's something you're interested in, male or female, as long as you're looking to lose more than 20 pounds, if you're over 25 years old, and you're somebody that has struggled with yo-yo dieting and you want to try the slow and steady approach, reach out, shoot me an email. All right, now back to some questions from the audience. Again, thank you for joining us live. And our next question coming in, and it is from Finny Boy. Finny Boy says, genuine question. You preach a sustainable lifestyle of calorie deficit, which seems to work, but then the food you're eating is processed and garbage. Is there not something to say for a balanced diet? So Finny Boy, I absolutely love this question. I love engaging with people. Like, I'm not going to say that my approach is the approach for everybody. I'm absolutely sharing what has worked with me. It is important that you find what works for you. Jennifer's a great example of somebody who probably eats much more nutritiously than me. I know that because she's always sending me texts about what they're having for dinner. But for me personally, I have struggled to clean up my diet and make it consistent. Now, how do I fit that in with what I'm talking about with a sustainable lifestyle with calorie deficit, or a sustainable lifestyle? Is if I want to eat healthy, which I do, I want it, but I got to be honest, there are times where, those aren't necessarily the foods that I crave. My goal is to just slowly do it over time. The speed at which people transition from a standard American unhealthy diet to a whole foods, very nutritious diet, that time is different for everybody. So for me, it's taken a little longer. I'm kind of, looking to hit my stride. I try to incorporate healthy foods when I can. But one of the things that I also tell people is when it comes to eating healthier, which again, I don't have the healthiest diet, no doubt. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to backslide. So when I am craving those healthy foods, I try to get them in. And the idea being over time, I just want to morph my nutrition so that 10 years from now, when I am eating super healthy, for me, it's going to look like a slow transition, because I know if I slowly transition and eat those healthy foods when I want them versus because I have to, that's when it's going to stick for me. I hope you stay around long enough, Finny Boy, to watch that transformation. But one of the things that I know is, you've got to eat those healthy foods when you want to versus when you have to. So the other thing that I talk is, this is not a one size fits all. You absolutely have to do what works for you. So, thank you so much again for tuning in today. I'm super glad that you had the opportunity to listen, watch the show. If you want to connect with us, be sure to follow the link in the description if you would like to join us live on the show. And if you want to ask us a question, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications so that you get notified anytime we go live and film these so that we can answer your questions from the chat. Again, very grateful for each and every one of you that is following along. If you are on a weight loss journey, if you're looking to start a weight loss journey, if you're on a maintenance journey, heck, if you don't even care about this at all and you're just interested in a little motivation and support, I really am glad that you are here. Remember, we are not looking to lose weight fast. We are looking to lose weight forever. Thanks again, and I will catch you in the next episode.